wanted to buy it. So we would steal baby formula from the suburbs all over the place and bring it, and it would, support our habit that way. But the one thing that I had in my benefit was I didn't always have to do petty crimes and put myself at risk like that because I had a computer.
You were still doing the hacking.
Right, and I was able to make money from affiliate networks. And I was, although being heavily addicted to heroin and experimenting with many other drugs, I still functioned very well. Like, which doesn't mean, like, I would say it's more of I was lucky there.
Yeah.
Right? Because most people, it's debilitating. It just immediately destroys
Hey Garmin,
their life,
say a video.
Ruins their family life, and whatever. Everybody's got a different story. But for me, it took a while for it to start causing damage to my family life, to my friends, to my school, to everything that I was doing. Like, I ended up having to drop out of school going into 10th grade after multiple alternative schools, and probably 9 times in the juvenile detention center, and residential programs, and inpatient rehab facilities, outpatient rehab facilities.
So how old were you when you decided to get clean?
So I don't think that the word decide was what happened.
Okay.
More
Was
so
it like you had to, or?
I stopped using drugs. I haven't done drugs since I was 17 years old, and I ended up so I'll give you the story of how I got arrested and what happened.
Okay. Yeah.
I went to Kensington, Philadelphia, with 3 other people, and I remember I had this pea coat on that had like inside pockets.
Yeah.
And I went to Kensington. I also had like needles and spoons. I had all kinds of crazy paraphernalia on me. But I went to Kensington and we bought heroin for 4 people. So, a bunch of heroin. It ended up being a total of 55 bags of heroin, which sounds like a ton. But 55 bags is 5.5 grams. Not nearly as much as it seems like it is.
Yeah.
But it looks like a lot because they're in individual bags. Each a 1/10 of a gram per bag. So we go to Kensington. I have 55 bags of heroin, but they're not for me. For all of us.
Buying further, yeah.
Yeah, for everyone I was with. We get back to the house that I was hanging out at, and I had this remote control helicopter with me because I've always been a geek, and that's just whatever. I ended up having this. It was a really big one too. It was a big remote control helicopter, and I needed batteries for the remote control. And there was a Phillips head screw on the back where I needed to get that off. And the way that this house was set up for the person's house I was at, it was a duplex. Like, one person lived on one side, and then he lived on the other side.
Yeah.
And there were these double doors in between the 2 front doors that you pulled up, and then if you walk down, and that was where the basement was. I forget the name of what those basements are called, but it's a shared basement between these 2 people that were living in this house. Well, the neighbors saw me go down into that basement and thought that I was burglarizing the house because they didn't know the guy that was living in the other side, and they didn't know me. So they called 911, the cops, and I didn't know that they didn't say anything to me. And I'm down there looking for a Phillips head screwdriver, like I'm not burglarizing anything. Cops are running down the steps. I still remember that clear as day too. They ran down the steps. They immediately, restrained me. I have a mugshot. Blood coming down from my forehead. My eyes are both black eyes. I got a cut on my face here because they ripped my lanyard off my neck and smacked me in the face with that. I didn't resist at all. They were just very aggressive cops, and they thought I was burglarizing the basement or whatever. I don't think that justifies beating me up, but they did.
No, definitely not.
And while they were searching me, they found 55 bags of heroin. And it's very hard to explain. Using common sense, you say, okay, well, look, these people all are obviously addicts. They look at them, they all look like addicts. None of them had any drugs on them, but they all have paraphernalia on them. This one guy has all of the drugs. It's either, the way that they framed it, though, wasn't just possession. They charged me with possession with intent to deliver, manufacture, and distribute heroin.
So they basically threw the book at you there.
They threw the book, which is a felony of the 1st degree, and the same category as murder. I don't think as bad as murder, but same category.
Yeah.
And they tried to give me a pretty rough sentence. They tried to, me being a minor is what kind of helped me there a lot. But there were, without going into all of the court proceedings and all the stuff like that, I ended up doing some time, and away from that, I had no option, and then I was in, I started in juvenile detention and then ended up in other places after that for a total of, I believe it was 20 months altogether if you combine all of the things from being a juvenile to ending up in adult court for the end of I'd have to get into. But being away from it that long, being forced to be away from it that long, I guess something in my brain switched because I had to, like, you know, I wasn't going to AA meetings, NA meetings. I wasn't practicing any faith or like just being away from the people, places, and things was enough for me to never want to be in that situation again. And don't get me wrong, being locked in a cell, especially in the beginning, withdrawing and not being able to do anything is not fun. But that wasn't the first time I had to go through that either. That was just the longest time I had to go through that. But something about that one time made me never want to end up in that spot again, physically or mentally. And I just, you know, like there's just so much that I'm forgetting. You know, I wish I could remember every detail of the crazy stuff. It would come back to me as soon as there's not a microphone in front of my face. I bet you I'd remember.
Yeah, we're gonna be at dinner tonight. You're gonna be like, oh, that thing that I was gonna tell you earlier.
Yeah, but it's like that's where it ended for me with drugs. Never did them again. But then later on in life, when I was 21 years old, I was talking to a girl that lived in Florida, and I was living in Pennsylvania still, and I was flying back and forth to Florida to see her. And there was a Starbucks at the end of the street that she lived on, and that Starbucks, there was always people hanging out there. So every morning I'd go there to get my coffee, or afternoon, whatever it ended up being. And everybody there kept asking me the same question. They kept saying, like, do you know anybody back home, like, knowing that I was from Pennsylvania, that wants to go to rehab, or that's an addict, or whatever. And then the next question they would ask, would be like about their health insurance. And I didn't fully understand it at that point because I never went to Florida for any rehabs or anything of that sort. So I was very new to the topic. But I ended up asking the girl that I was visiting, like, why are all these people asking me about rehab? Everybody there, like, they all work in the rehab business or something? And she said, yeah, they're called rehab marketers. And rehab marketers are, a lot of them are some, like, the scum of the earth. And I decided, like, let me probe a little bit deeper and understand why these people care so much, and why, like, they got to be making money asking me these questions. They can't just, why would they be asking a stranger if I know someone that needs to go to rehab? It's just a weird thing, So I find out from them that they're getting paid on average $3,000 for every patient that they get successfully into a rehab facility. It's a federal crime. It's called patient brokering, when you get a kickback from a facility to send a patient, to send a patient there for money.
They had no concern for the actual person that they were sending to the rehab. They were just trying to make their bag and get them.
That's exactly right. And like, I have the internet marketing background, I have the drug addiction background, which a whole different story. Like with my dad's side of the family, also, I lost a lot of them to heroin overdose. A lot of them are gone. More than half of them have died, actually, to fentanyl overdose as well. One was a stabbing, but it was a rough go with drugs, and still is to some degree. So I thought, okay, with the abilities that I have, internet marketing wise, what can I do to get people that are actively searching for treatment or rehab into the right facility without getting a kickback? How can I do this legally and also put them in the right facility? So I thought to myself, well, these people aren't running any type of campaigns online, and, like, I'm talking about paid marketing at this point, nothing illegal. So what I originally created was a questionnaire, and you would type in, like, rehab near me. It didn't matter.
Right, that could call. Forgot to turn it on. Is that right, Katie? Yeah. I got to say I got that. I'll see you Saturday. I'll get you up. Here with my treat. Katie, you eat more than I do. Uh-huh. What you got to say about that? Nothing. I'm just tired. I'm just gonna, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But I'm gonna show you something. And then I'm gonna tell you like it is. And then I'm gonna get you up and call you Sarsaparilla. You gonna call me what? Sarsaparilla. Why you gonna call me that, Katie? Because I want to. Because I can. And if you don't like it, you can kick rocks. Alright, Katie, you got kind of mean. Well, you earned it. Because you always, you don't let me get out of love. And I try. And I'm going to show you something, Daddy. And that's what I got to say, I got it, Daddy. And that's what I got to do, I got it, Daddy. Daddy. You got something to say? No. Nope, ain't got nothing to say, baby. You better not, because I had to beat you up. Oh, Katie, it's alright. Because I want to, and because I can. What you got to say about that, Daddy? Huh, Daddy? What you say about that, Daddy? You know what I did, Daddy? Rolling Hills Restaurants in North Dakota. I don't know where it, well, I'm looking at your seat and can tell y'all exactly where I am. What? Let's see. We're in Mandan, North Dakota. Mandan, North Dakota. So that's where we're at. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I just decided to give y'all a little taste of the Nate and Katie adventures. Katie, you got something you want to say? You got something you want to say? I told you got that carrot, Daddy. Why you doing that, Daddy? Yeah, I hate it, Daddy. Okay, you got something you want to say to the who on the camera? They're looking at you. Well, I got something to say. I'm gonna tell you like this. I'll tell you what I think about that camera. Katie, look at the camera. What you want? You give me your cheek? Ladies and gentlemen, I'll give her a treat. Just to see what she'll do. You're one of these today. I gotta go have see when I eat my cheese. See y'all later. Catch y'all next time. Exciting adventures of the Nate and Katy show. Excuse the rest of the show. Anyway, catch y'all next time. Yeah.